Okie dokie.
And we should be live now.
Hey, welcome everybody.
Hello, welcome back. And this is our 20th show.
Is it 20?
Yeah.
Jeez. We're catching it with like the main event number pretty soon.
Yeah, we will. No, it's still quite a lot. Cool. So let's just, today we got Adam and Chris. We're gonna play the show real fast before much introduction, and we talk and introduce the guys properly. Just give me 1 second. And can you guys see my screen?
Yep, all working.
Yeah, so perfect. Nice.
Very nice.
Really cool.
So nicest quality.
So we play mainframe showreel. As you guys can see tonight, we're gonna have like 2 companies in one, pretty much. It's the 2 shows.
You buy one, you get one free.
Yeah. So tonight we got Adam and Chris. Both is from Mainframe, and they also run Cavalry. Is up. We're gonna talk later, but Mainframe is kind of where all origin, and I think we can say all start inside Mainframe. And also it's nice to have you guys talk, because Adam's name came to the show probably 10,000 times. Every British person talk about Adam, and you guys probably heard that.
Stop it, no, go on.
Let's start with what you guys drink. What are you drinking, Adam?
I have got a nice Sauvignon Blanc, kind of middle class juice.
I like you color matched with your shirt. It's nice.
I thought you'd get a Vonier, yeah.
No, I'm pretty much a boring Sauvignon guy.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Chris?
I've gone for a big wave golden ale.
Oh, nice.
Oh, fancy.
Is that Hawaiian, isn't it? Or something like that?
I don't know, I just kind of like the surf. I sort of like the idea of being near a beach somewhere, so I picked it up today, especially for this.
Nice. I've gone for big and cheap, just Estrella.
Cool. And just
gets you drunk.
A glass of sake today.
Oh, wow. Are you drinking it warm or cold or tepid?
I'm drinking cold. I just did a 30 minutes online course of miso and sake before that, so I bought.
Oh, really?
It kind of looks like you've mixed it there, Thiago.
Yeah, but it's a bit cloudy, this one.
Yeah.
nice.
Are you sure you didn't make it yourself?
Yeah, I did. Just
All right.
did in the toilet.
Ross.
Cool. So let's just start talking a little bit about mainframe. Like how many years you guys been running? Because
okay. So yeah, we have now been running since July '98. So we've been running 22 years, which puts us right at the start of people using After Effects on beige Apple Macs
yeah.
no money. And then Chris, so I started it in '98, and then Chris came along a few years later, and we've been working together for kind of 18 years or something like that, haven't we?
I had to run to Manchester halfway through for mine.
He did. He ran away.
I wanted to touch on that later because I kind of suspect that you had a falling out and you got banished to the north.
To a different part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you guys have studio in London and Manchester, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got a studio. We've always had a studio in London, based in around Clerkenwell. Well, we moved a couple of times with Shoreditch and then over to Clerkenwell. And then Chris was with us, kind of 3D artist, also head of production, kind of weird crossover. Made him an excellent candidate to run a studio on his own. And when Chris got married, he spent a few years in London and then fled up north, but came to me with a proposition to start a studio up there, which has been successfully running for several years now.
Did you guys know each other before Mainframe?
Well, weird you should say that, because
it's pre-Tinder.
So yeah, we did. We actually briefly went to the same school at one point, but we weren't like sort of buddies at school or anything. But funnily enough, we've got a mutual friend that sent me a picture of his, I think, 15th birthday party.
Yeah,
we were both in these pictures, both looking kind of like sort of little indie kids with bobs and stuff.
Oh.
So yeah, we have known each other for plenty of years.
It's kind of weird how stuff like that works out as well, like how.
Yeah, it was actually it was the connection back into Mainframe was through a guy called Paul Thomas, who was another guy that we all went to school with, and he was working at Mainframe at the time that I'd actually walked out in a bit of a strop from a job at Pinewood Studios, kind of just had enough of it, and just popped in to see Paul to say hello, and got chatting to Ad about a project that was coming up. I think it was called Build a New Life, and it was like a kind of Grand Designs challenger at the time. And we didn't really do a lot of 3D back then, did we? And it was done a bit, and that's kind of how that 3D journey started, really.
I guess back then 3D probably wasn't as feasible simply because of processing power available, I guess, and also more expertise back then. It was
a kind of Brave New World, really, wasn't it? It's funny talking on one of the previous drinks that you had with Mike at Man vs Machine. And at that time when he was with us, we were kind of just kind of breaking into this 3D side of things, and loads of people that were like, no 3D.
Well, that's what Mike was like. He was the anti 3D guy, wasn't he, for quite a while?
Yeah, look at him now.
Bloody hypocrite.
Wow. And what field do you guys most work? Because you guys do a lot of commercial, TV, broadcast. Just for people don't really know you guys, what is the main body of work you guys do?
Yeah, so coming out of Mainframe, really, it's mostly commercials these days. Commercials and social, really. In the past we did quite a lot of broadcast as well, but I guess it's just we've just moved more into a kind of commercial area, just probably because it's the kind of work we want to be doing and the budgets are better, and it's kind of it seems to be where the sort of real innovation is happening, and people are kind of striving the hardest.
Mm. Didn't you famously start Mainframe because you could charge £1,000 a second?
No, that was. I think that rumor came out of of a silly video that we did, the history of Mainframe. That Fraser Davison was heavily involved in.
Oh, that's probably why. It's probably you know, liable then.
Yeah, and that's a scurrilous rumor that I was just interested in the money.
Wasn't it some sort of Pixar quote or something from back in the day that I can't remember what it was, but it was based on some fact.
Yeah. No, it was purely artistic reasons that I started Mainframe.
So have you guys, how have you guys been affected by COVID in the way? Because I guess you guys are quite set up for remote work anyway, because you know you work with people, freelancers all over the world, and you know got a team up north as well. So I guess you're kind of set up in quite a good position.
We were. I can't say it wasn't a shock though, to be honest. It all happened very quickly, and you know we weren't particularly perfectly set up, and we certainly didn't think that it was going to last as long as it did. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, I mean, we got set up fairly quickly. People were fairly comfortable, but you know, for us, there was still there's still quite a lot of, you know, some of the younger guys that weren't necessarily comfortable working at home, didn't necessarily have a good setup, didn't have a great machine at home. So, I mean, we've tried to, because obviously we all work, our pipeline works off central servers. We've tried to maintain people working off their machines at work and working remote desktop. But it's just not practical for some people, unfortunately. Some people haven't got great internet, and so we just kind of, you know, I think like everyone, we haven't found the answer yet. We're muddling through.
Do you feel like it's probably made the I guess this whole probably applies to most animation companies in a way, but do you feel like it's kind of made the companies more robust because you can now, you know, when the pandemic's over, you've got way more flexibility with remote work? Because I know quite a few companies didn't want to take people on unless they were on site, but I guess this is kind of like forced that issue away a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely changed our outlook. I mean, I still think there's a massive place for a studio in a company like ours. I just you know, one of the things we're really struggling with is onboarding juniors and interns and stuff, and actually making it a kind of meaningful experience for them.
Yeah.
So that's been tricky. But having said that, we've got a guy starting tomorrow who would normally have been in the office 5 days a week, and actually, you know, he's going to be probably largely remote now. You know, not least for the fact that he's actually moved out of London, bought a place out in you know, out the countryside in Dorset.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I mean, everything has changed.
So how does that work with work experience as well? Because I guess you can't really get work experience because you're not physically at work.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been a real issue for us. We've also had a new intern start with us who I've got really high hopes for. He's a really nice guy and his work's fantastic. But it's been a real struggle. It's been a slow process to get everything in line. I went into the office last week and met him to kind of introduce him to the workplace and stuff. But it's been tricky, and I worry that he is potentially not going to get as much as he could do out of it because he's not with.
It's difficult,
and he's not in, you know, brainstorms and all that good stuff.
Yeah, loses a lot of not being in the studio. I think that's the main problem I think we all, like, the studio is feeling at the moment. For us, is still one of the reasons we still have people in the studio as well, because it's easy to get the work done, but who feels comfortable there? It's just like special with the intern. You know, it's just not. You lose so much, you know, not having the contact with everyone and sharing the experience.
Yeah, that's sort of my worry is for for the younger people in the company is, we've just been dropping names. We've all known each other for a long time from back in those days of being in the same
pre-COVID,
at the same
yeah.
time. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd much rather be in the office myself, but I'm sort of relatively content at home. I've got family and kids around me to distract me and all those sorts of things. So, and I never feel there's never any quiet moments. But yeah, I definitely think that.
What do your family think though? They're like,
yeah, they think my kids think I'm pretty weird, just sat at the computer doing stuff like this all the time.
How have you found it in Manchester, Chris? Because obviously the talent pool for freelancers is probably just population size is smaller than say London. But has this made things trickier for you guys?
Well, I was going to say actually one of the positives that's come out of it for us is the kind of London Manchester studio thing, as in within Mainframe. Weirdly, we're actually working much more closely together now over projects, because basically there is no office. So a person who is supposedly working in the Manchester office is no different to someone who's supposedly working in the London office now. So that's been a kind of real positive from it.
Absolutely, yeah.
We've been able to sort of spread our resources, and something that we thought would be really, really difficult, now we've had to do it, is actually okay. So that's been good. But yeah, I mean, in terms of freelancing generally in Manchester, it is definitely a smaller pool than London. But again, now there is no location. That's not quite so much of a thing as much as it used to be.
Nice to decentralize from London a little bit, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time when we were working with freelancers, they weren't necessarily coming in anyway. So that hasn't massively changed. How
did you find opening the studio up north compared to your experiences down south? Because obviously everyone says about a north-south divide, but did you ever come across that kind of thing? Because obviously, you're a bit of a southern guy. Maybe you came against a bit of a wall.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit weird at the start. It was just me in a room. We got an office, and there was a desk, and there was me. And the first person that came to join us was a girl called Dina McCangy, and it was literally, she had to just come into this office and work with me all day. It was
must be pretty uncomfortable for her.
I'm sure, I don't know. She stuck around for a good while, so it obviously wasn't too bad. But yeah,
she had to move down to London to get away from you.
She has, yeah, she has. But I mean, there wasn't a great deal of motion graphics going on in Manchester at that time. There's obviously a big design heritage, and there's a traditional animation heritage with places like Cosgrove Hall and shows like Danger Mouse being made up here.
I didn't realise Danger Mouse was made up in Manchester.
Yeah.
Wow. Learn something. Every day's a school day.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think when we moved into a place called Ancoats, which is sort of just one of the sort of bits just outside of central Manchester. If you're in London, it's right in the middle of Manchester, but for Mancunians, it's kind of just outside the centre. It literally takes you 10 minutes to walk into the middle. But as a company called Red Vision, who were a kind of BBC spin-off back then, they kind of went pop, and in doing that kind of spawned lots of other little studios. And so
right, interesting.
There's a really good scene up here of motion design and animation.
I guess especially with Salford and BBC moving up there, I guess that kind of also helped drive things too.
Yeah, it's sort of more traditional post. It's kind of bigger post houses and less actual animation companies there. But yeah, definitely, it's all part of the same kind of industry and world.
I guess we should probably talk about Cavalry soon as well.
Yeah.
No.
Do you see much difference? Like, of course, London is a lot bigger and we got more work, but do you still create more work for Manchester, or is all the work come from London and you guys help London, so both studio does the work that end up coming from London, or you generate business from Manchester as well?
I think traditionally it was a case that we would tend to do the London work and you would tend to do the work kind of, north of Watford.
Don't say the regions. Don't say the regions.
But that all changed probably about 10 years ago, and then we were doing work from all over the place, and it was just where the work came into, really, wasn't it? You've been doing huge projects for big American firms, and most of our work isn't from Manchester or London these days. Most of our work's from the States and China, so there is no geographical distinction now, and actually, it's almost like we still have 2 physical offices, but
it's like one.
It is, yeah.
It's quite a natural transition as well, because when the Manchester office was very new and young, we were trying to, I was kind of getting into the ad agencies in Manchester and Leeds and anywhere sort of not too far away from here. And they generally didn't have the bigger budgets. If they did have bigger budgets, like perversely, they were going to London post houses to get them, animation studios to get that work done. But as we've grown bigger, more and more of our work, the showreel that you showed is quite a nice balance, isn't it, between work that's come predominantly out of Manchester and work that's come out of London.
Definitely, yeah.
When we first started, that wasn't the case. It was quite hard to get Manchester work onto our showreel because we were, Adam was knocking it out of the park with the work down there. So, it's been a good journey. We've grown up, and Manchester's grown up with us, really, in that respect.
It's quite good that a lot of the clients are international, because it almost like, it kind of helps with the current situation, though. Not everything is based on like the pound, so therefore you kind of protected a little bit from world events, and going forward at Brexit events too. So it kind of helps out with that, which is quite good. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, and also doesn't really matter where you guys are. If you're in London or Manchester, you can do the work. You're not really physically meeting the client. No. So in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So shifting a little bit, tell us what is the reason behind you guys start software? I know you guys run also plugins for Maya, but we're gonna focus more on Cavalry today. But is it something on the DNA you guys always wanted to look into and find solutions then you couldn't find in the softwares out there, like After Effects?
Yeah, I think just taking a step back into Maya, which is kind of where it started. It was literally being asked to do, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, kind of basically sort of full visual effects, but on motion graphics budgets.
Yeah.
And so we were sort of picking up Maya. Maya was our we've used various 3D software these days, but Maya back then was our kind of de facto software. And just there were certain things that it didn't do that we needed to make happen. And it was Ian Waters who was the first one really to start scripting in Maya, and that effectively blossomed into a suite of nodes and a plugin that we call Mash, which was for Cinema 4D users was very similar to MoGraph. And sort of long story short, that was acquired by Autodesk and now ships as part of Maya. And then we built a few more tools on the back of that as well, also Maya tools. And then that relationship with Autodesk kind of ended quite amicably. But they decided they didn't want to sort of continue Mash's development. They're sort of moving into, they've got another product called Bifrost, and they're putting their energy into that.
So too much crossover for them, I guess.
Yeah, it was getting a bit blurry, basically, as to which sort of roadmap to follow for them. So we were all very disappointed when that ended, because we were having great fun doing all that and getting some really good feedback. Ian went off he got a SciTech nomination, so that's academies.
Nice.
Went out to the States, rubbing shoulders with John Knoll and people like that, and didn't win, but the nomination was pretty special.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So Mash was being used in lots of Hollywood blockbusters, things like Jurassic World, and I can't remember the list now. I think it was in one of the Star Wars movies. It did really, really well. But yeah, we suddenly had this void. Ian was suddenly a software developer. We had another guy, Martin, who was also full-time software developer, and we had no software development projects to do. And we've had this sort of dream of sort of basically rethinking the way that 2D animation works. We as Ad says, we've probably, I don't know which version of After Effects it was. I'm going to guess sort of 2 or something. That
they're all the same anyway. They just crash in different ways.
And so we thought, we can do this better, and that was about 3 years ago now. So about 2017, we kicked off, the very, very first iterations of Cavalry, and I've been kind of working on that ever since.
So now that you guys have launched your project, what were the biggest hurdles along the way? Like, what do you kind of wish you would have known 3 years ago before starting out that would have made things easier?
But it was going to take 3 years, and we've only just started.
Yeah, it's a long project.
We massively underestimated the scope of building a tool like Cavalry. It's just enormous, and we've only just scratched the surface, basically.
Well, is it like an entire almost like an entire language in its own right?
Yeah, so Cavalry, it's its own engine. So it's completely, it's built completely proprietary. The engine is ours. It's Cavalry's. We're building on top of that. So that's very different to working, with Maya, where you've got a really established platform that you're building for. And Mash was a plugin essentially. It does ship with Maya, but it is a plugin. So there's all that kind of, all the APIs, all the really kind of deep technical stuff is done for you in a way, and you're building on top of it. Whereas we're having to engineer all of that. Now I'm not technical enough to really talk you through all that side of things, but there's just so many edge cases. We've all done it. We've all pressed the button and done the thing with the software that it wasn't intended to do, and all of a sudden things go crazy, and we're trying to just keep an eye on those things all the time. And the more features you build, the more things that connect to other things, the more weird ways people can put things together, and trying to keep a hold of that is definitely a challenge.
So building an engine is a pretty a mammoth task. Are you guys planning on building upon that engine? Because I guess you can use it for other stuff that's not necessarily Cavalry, like other iterations of whatever, some other platform, obviously you have Unity, Unreal Engine, all that kind of stuff. Is that the game plan or something?
Yeah, we've got as of now, we're kind of working up our drawing tools. So there's kind of some interesting crossovers into apps like Illustrator, which is a great app in itself, been around a long time.
Is it? But it crashes constantly.
Well, I'm starting to learn, how much work goes into this thing. So I'm sort of less. What's the word?
That's probably why Adobe are reluctant to rebuild anything. That's probably why After Effects still uses one core.
But
anyway, less about that.
But so Illustrator or an illustration app is definitely something. Basically take the timeline away, and we've got an illustration app there. The real time performance is definitely something that can. I think it's a bit early to be calling Unity and Epic, start worrying about Cavalry, but there's definitely, in terms of interaction and things like that we're looking to build into Cavalry at some point in the future. So, click a button and that triggers something else.
What about stuff like?
We're definitely kind of crossing these worlds, which is what we wanted to do. That's why we built Cavalry. If you're working in After Effects, it's very difficult to sort of get something out of that to be something else.
It's quite an exciting time as well. Like when you look at video card releases from NVIDIA with the new 3090s and what have you, with all the ray tracing stuff and deep learning and what. I mean, that's quite an exciting thing to potentially utilize in an engine.
Yeah, we're just on a little journey at the moment. So our the renderer that we use in Cavalry is technology called Skia, which is a Google project. It's what runs Chrome, Android, all those sorts of things. So it's very very well respected 2D renderer, and they've got a version of GLSL shaders that they call SKSL.
Okay. And
we're just kicking off a project with writing shaders. So again, it's all that kind of real time effects, basically.
I feel out of my depth.
A quick question, because After Effects has been running for so long, and everyone, I think, is been waiting that moment. Someone come and compete. The main problem, I think, for everyone that animates and use After Effects do motion graphic, the problem is no competition to After Effects. And
you used to have combustion, but it kind of fizzled away. Or
had combustion. Had what was the one from Apple as well? It's
Motion.
Oh yeah, Motion.
Motion is still going, but never catch.
Is it still going? I thought they stopped developing it.
Yeah, it's still going.
Oh wow.
We never had anything that really, compete and made Adobe to develop better, and one problem, After Effects does people use for everything. If it's for compositing, it's 2D, so it's difficult to polish a software for one thing when you need, to supply to so many people. What is the main goal you guys have with Cavalry? Do you guys tend to use more like for the 2D world, or what is the end goal you guys kind of, if you have one in mind?
The end goal is sort of yet to be defined. I think that's that could go in lots of different directions. But in terms of the start goal was very much 2D animation, focus on vector, so that's kind of shapes and things like that, and then that kind of real-time back end. And if you read between the lines, there's a journey into animation for the web as well here, where we've already all we've got is shapes basically. There's no raster graphics, those sorts of things.
If it's not a GIF, I'm not interested.
No. Yeah, we do have a GIF exporter. It's not very good actually. We need to improve that. But yeah, it's really focused on that 2D world. Behind the scenes, we are engineered for 3D, but that's just a whole box we didn't want to open. There's so many good 3D apps out there. Houdini are killing it. Cinema 4D is fantastic. We know Maya very well.
I think it's fair to say we were never going to go toe to toe with After Effects as well, because it does so many different things.
Yeah.
The whole compositing side of things is just something that we're not concentrating on at all. So hopefully, I think how we see it is that we're not going to do everything that After Effects does, but some of the things that After Effects doesn't do particularly brilliantly, we're going to do better.
Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of things After Effects does not do brilliantly.
Yeah, because I think that is.
Is anyone from Adobe watching? No, not. Sponsor us.
But I think it is a problem we always have. After Effects does too much things, and it's quite difficult for them to focus in animation, and and having a software that just focus there, you guys can get that a lot better than what we have now.
Yeah, I think motion design and animation is enough to concentrate on without compositing.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I mean, perversely, After Effects started, really as a compositor, and is now used for motion graphics. So we're kind of starting with the motion design and motion graphics point of view. That's our start point. That's where we want to excel at.
And you just touched basically looking into the drawing tools now. Do you guys have any goal to push that as you can animate like vector wise, like Animate does, or are you guys gonna complete more on the animation like as motion graphic and then let's say cell animation, digitally?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that you have to do at the moment as a sort of motion designer is you have to sort of create your artwork in something else if you're animating in After Effects. Obviously, you can do some things in After Effects, but you generally create that outside and then bring it in. We want to consolidate that. Again, we've got a vector back end. You should be able to draw shapes and manipulate.
There's a comment right there.
Yeah, and it's this kind of idea of bringing 3D methodologies into 2D as well. So, the idea, we've got things like fall-offs in Cavalry. We've got the idea that you might be able to sort of nudge, polygons and stuff to actually sculpt them. We can do all that. We've got some R&D on those things. They're just not quite ready to show yet. But essentially, it's sort of 3D, but it's just flat 3D behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's one of the things with the Adobe, like with After Effects and Illustrator and what have you. It feels like the system is so rigid. Like it feels like it needs a bit of a rebuild. So it's nice that you could, you know, you guys start obviously starting from the ground up. You've got all that in mind as well. 'Cause, you know, you guys have worked in industry for a long time, so you know what the more of an ideal workflow would be.
Yeah, and it goes back to that kind of, you know, we built the engine so everything talks to everything. It's not this works sometimes and this doesn't work sometimes. It's you know, if it's in Cavalry, you can connect that up to something else. You know, where
Interesting. So what's the reception been so far, or your feedback?
The reception's been amazing. Yeah, I mean, the thing you sent me, or the thing that was on Instagram today, was just like, you know, every day we get super nice comments about what a game changer it's going to be, which is really encouraging. Really keeps us kind of driving forward, which is great.
What's the worst comment been though?
It's got to be based around subscriptions.
Oh, right, okay. But I feel like subscriptions just make sense nowadays anyway.
Yeah.
It's a standard model.
If you have,
I mean, they're not going anywhere.
push the software, no?
Sorry, say again, Tiago?
If you have another software to push competition, a subscription work. If it's like After Effects, they don't do anything. They just take the money and then never develop the software. No, that's the main problem with.
Is that the goal?
That's the goal.
I think the problem with that is that there's not a lot they can do, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it needs rebuilding. I think, and obviously they're quite reluctant to put that kind of R&D in, I imagine, because it's cost a fortune.
Well, can you imagine what effect that would have, the knock-on effect on the sort of plugins that?
Oh, huge. And also it's across the entire suite as well. But you know, when it's like 2020 and your software doesn't really use GPU and doesn't really use multi-core rendering, it's kind of ridiculous.
Mm.
It was Adobe Max today, wasn't it?
Is that today? Is it?
Yeah, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything After Effectsy coming out of that.
No, but Keanu Reeves is doing a talk, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
But anyway.
We're for Keanu for next year.
Yeah.
I've got my Point Break. He was in Point Break, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
And you just comment about like the plugin side. Is it something you guys plan to open and to bring more people to develop and open like the code so people can develop inside, or you at the moment you guys just want to keep that close and have fully control of that? Because plugins also generate problems with crash, and especially with so many scripts running nowadays for After Effects, and it's easy to blame the software, but sometimes it's just like a bug on the plugin or on the script. Is it something you guys have in mind to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so basically the way that Cavalry is engineered is that everything in Cavalry is already a plugin. So the guys that are working on this and building features, they are plugins in themselves. So the intention when we get there is that the plugin will feel completely native to Cavalry. So it won't feel like a kind of a third party plugin. It will feel sort of native in there. The reason we haven't got there yet is it just pins. Once you release an API, it really pins you down. In terms of supporting that API going forward. And while we're still kind of young and fresh and moving fast, we're trying to hold on to that for as long as we can. But yeah, that's definitely the intention. So, perversely, some of our messaging is around, we've got some native features like, a joysticks and sliders equivalent. We've got a rubber hose thing. We've got kind of data sort of spreadsheet stuff that you can join in if you use Templater, something similar to that in After Effects. So we're trying to condense that, because I think it's the third party thing. Amazing plugins, amazing development community, but it is making for quite a kind of disparate experience in After Effects. You never know what's going to work with what, and managing the invoices is difficult, right? Going back to
mainframe. Licensing. I mean, scripts has made things easier, but licensing has always been a total pain with all the plugins, and the cost. Just some small individual plugins to do something, like a denoise or a warp or something, can cost like 600 quid for a plugin. It's just, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And when
So
you're doing that over maybe like 15 seats in a studio,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
I need to get into making plugins.
And talk about like have like seats in the studio and everything. Is it because we've just been talking how much work you guys need to put to create a software, you know, especially you guys build from scratch, and it is. Do you guys worry about like piracy? You know, like people just opening that, because even I think the hardest one, people end up just creating a pirate copy. And I have a friend does a little modeling software as well, and he was selling, and even is a small amount, it's not big as you guys, and he found like his software on the internet, and people just, you know, open to everyone. Is this something you guys really worry about? And
we're definitely conscious of it, but you know, it was the same with MASH. There was like one of the torrents. I can't remember which one it was, but you know, someone had mocked up, MASH didn't cut. MASH was a digital product, but someone had mocked up a box and put MASH branding on it, and you know, we're sort of giving it away. And it's just like, wow, there's a lot of effort to go into, because
You got to respect the player.
But you know, we take the view that if you're doing it professionally, and you know you're going to be a customer, then you'll see the value in it, and you know, rather than the hassle of, you know, us changing something a month later to try and prevent someone having pirated it, you'll just pay. It's a few hundred pounds a year, or not even. If you're working professionally, then that's, you know, not a lot of money if we're saving that.
It goes against your tax.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People don't know that. People seem to have an enormous problem with that.
Yeah.
You can write it off against your tax.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's definitely, you know, it's not ideal, but it's out there, and I think, as is proven, there is not one piece of software that exists that hasn't been pirated.
It'll happen at some point anyway.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. It's you know, it's like, it's just part and parcel of the industry, really. But but the offset is hopefully it'll leverage well. But you know, people get into, like you say, like people get into using the software, and hopefully that will generate subscriptions down the line. Because I know that, you know, I think everyone from our generation probably learned their trade in Photoshop and After Effects on the dodgy copy.
No comment.
No comment. I can neither confirm nor deny these allegations. But with I guess also in the future with your engine, is it quite flexible in regards to, like, obviously Apple are going to switch to their own architecture pretty soon. I guess that will probably affect you guys quite a lot.
Yeah, they've actually reached out to us, and so we're kind of in conversation with them about getting over to Silicon, and we've not sort of actually actively started doing anything about it, but from the documentation, it looks like we've got a fairly clear path to that. So,
right.
You know, that's really exciting about, sort of ramping up performance even more.
Because I like the idea of like a portable version. Because obviously, like with like the iPad Pros and all that kind of side of thing, like, you know, the processing power is there. It's like an equivalent of a like Intel i5, i7 kind of thing. So to have like a portable, proper animation package, I feel like there's a massive gap in the market there.
Yes.
I mean, one thing that you've got to think about is slinging huge files about on.
It's true, but that's not as big of a problem as it used to be. I don't think.
No. Especially, I mean, when you know, down the line, when we've got Clotty rocking and rolling, Operation Clotty, that'll be absolutely fine. You know, code based, you know, rather than raster based. So the file sizes are going to be
tiny.
Yeah.
That's an in joke. We've started talking about looking more seriously into Lottie support. It's we need to really extend that format to make that work for Cavalry, but we've been thinking of what to call our flavour of it, and my favourite so far is Cavalotti. But
Cavalotti, Jesus Christ!
No, that's been our today.
I don't know if I'm impressed or disgusted.
Yeah,
It's funny because
yeah.
not many people, I think, use a lot. It's still quite. We discussed that a little bit with Fraser.
Not a lottie.
Yeah,
Not a lot. It's
not in our world.
yeah, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
So why don't more people use it? Is it just
I don't know.
It's a very limited format. It's very, very badly documented. There's no documentation on it at all.
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we're sort of looking quite seriously into that at the moment.
Because I just discovered that when we rebuilt the website, a web designer recommended that to us, and for me it was like, wow, just exporting it straight to code, and the person can put on the website, so light to load, and it's not that we do a lot web format animation, but it's so powerful, and the files is nothing.
It's only more of a matter of time that it won't do more web format. I think, like, it's so prominent in a way.
Yeah.
Like, why would you put out a video if you could have like less file to less bandwidth use?
Yeah, it's just going to be a huge area into the future. I don't know, things like Discord. I only discovered that uses Lottie animation, or Scotty, I think, which is the skier flavor of Lottie.
I've only recently got into Discord, but it's like it's like IRC chat from back in the day, but it's like the new IRC chat.
Yeah, I have to admit, I feel a bit old on Discord, but we've got some younger guys on the team who are.
This is how age happens, Chris.
I know. I think I'm keeping up with it.
Sure. What do your kids say? Probably not.
So talk a little bit about the future. You guys on the version 1 now. Yeah, you just how long?
What version do you want to get to?
How long ago you guys released? Like, just been like a few months, no?
Yeah, so middle of August, we had a private beta, and then we went to the public beta in February. So that was about sort of 6 and a bit months. 6-ish months, I think, and then went to the sort of 1.0 release. We've since done a sort of patch release 101, and actually today we've released 102 as well. So, and that's introduced things like rulers, you're sort of snapping and things like that with rulers and guides. We've got our first noise shader going in, so that's our first SKSL shader coming into the app in the beta. We've got things like magic easing, so kind of like bouncing cool. Sort of animation curves and things like that, or ease in, ease out, bounce, all those sorts of things going in as well. So kind of incremental features creeping in just after launch, and then we've got a bigger 1.1 release that is, I won't put a date on that because we haven't got one internally yet. I'll be shot.
It must have felt pretty nice to like finally, when you work so long on a piece of software to like go gold. It's like not a relief, because obviously you've still got to support it for ongoing iterations, but it must feel nice to get it out there and get all, see what people think and all that kind of side of things. Yeah,
it was a pretty nerve-wracking few hours just before pressing the go button.
Was it a big red button, like really dramatic, like now?
What? One of my favourite parts of the week is on a kind of Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. We've got like this amazing group of designers in Japan who have formed this Cavalry study group, and they they spend their Saturdays learning, sharing information, and then putting out content, mostly on Twitter actually. But it's amazing, isn't it, Chris, to see what they come up with every week? It's just fantastic. Really, and they're just so into the way it works. It's fantastic.
Japanese creativity is always completely different to the Western way of thinking anyway. So like the idea that they're working on stuff from Cavalry and like putting out just, I imagine, quite nuts content is there.
Yes, awesome. we don't know how to do it.
That's the best thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean that's one of the nice things about building software is that, or design software, is that people create creative with it, and you sort of get this kind of, it bounces back at you, and you think, oh wow, we built the tool that someone made that in. That's and it's just really, obviously coming from a motion graphics heritage ourselves, it's it's such a great feeling seeing that work come in.
Yeah, like using something in a way that it wasn't intended is always like super interesting. Just kind of like, oh, that happens if you do what? Okay, great.
Yeah, people have used it for doing plotter art. People have used it for building like 1,000 street names for a game. To populate a kind of big game. They've used the dynamic rendering feature to.
Well, that's a real strong point of Cavalry, is the kind of the generation side of things. Because you don't really get that in After Effects to the same extent as Cavalry, where you can build something and then you've got your system set up and you can like you say, like with street names, just kind of cascade a load of outputs.
Yeah,
like super easy with Cavalry.
Oh, After Effects just crash.
After Effects just crashes.
And
when you mention that, Chris, you've got like a little. It'd be quite nice to show people the UI.
Is that a good segue?
It is.
Yeah, if we can.
You guys.
No pressure.
You can drive.
No pressure. Live software demo. Right, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yep, working.
So this is a little.
I'm judging you by your file layouts, by the way.
Yeah, we've got something called project descriptions in Cavalry, which is a sort of thing that allows you to, when you open, it takes you to the right place, all those sorts of things. So,
cool.
One for the pipeline specialists in there. Anyway,
I've heard you're a pipeline specialist.
I should start by just crediting these guys, Studio South in New Zealand. This is a branding project that they put together for these guys, Human Forest. So we sort of,
oh, nice.
It's kind of, we thought that is perfect for doing a little Cavalry demo with. So
I feel like they're jacking my style, though.
This is a really, very simple walk cycle. This is using our rubber hose and, literally just a shape in here. Where, again, that's playing back in real time. Hopefully screen sharing won't kill our real-time playback.
Nice. Looks good.
Very nice.
There you go. We're getting 25 FPS. So going back to the kind of idea that we can, the duplication and just creating variation as well with that. If I just add that to a duplicator, if I just sort of scale this down a little bit and spread them out. So, we've now got 9 of our dudes here. What we can start to do though, again, because of this, we've got something we call the pull architecture, and basically it's kind of a graph that goes in 2 directions, so you can do some really, really kind of unusual things. So in this, we've got the body, so we can rotate the body. What we can do is we can add an array to this. So an array is basically just a collection of values. And so what this is doing, this is passing down these values onto each one of these IDs. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it's just filtering through, right? So we can make this guy feel a bit cocky. One's a little bit depressed. And then rather than making, well, you can see that's making a pattern there. We're getting 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. We could actually just plug a random in here. So we could plug just a random node. I just need to make that so it's 0 and 2 to match how many IDs we've got. And now we can just, play around with the seed and have them all do it slightly different. And we can just do this in playback as well. So you can just, find the one you like. So that idea that real time gives you that kind of quick playground. You can just iterate really quickly and get things wrong very quickly until you find the thing that you like.
Get things wrong faster with Cavalry.
Yeah, yeah. And then we can do exactly the same theory with the time offset. So we can offset all of those animation curves. Again, let's just use a random to do that. As you can see, those guys are now all kind of walking at their different pace.
And it's like they're coming back from the pub.
It's like that, yeah, exactly. It's kind of a bit of a ragtag bag of not a bag, a group of people. But that's just a really quick demo. But it's that idea that you are just creating little recipes along the way. And essentially, you're just feeding numbers into other numbers and just making variation and things that way. So that's the kind of real procedural backbone of Cavalry. And that's where its strengths are at the moment. And the next thing that we're working on now is is how you can shade things and gradients along strokes and things like that. But you can literally, for this, for example, we could just go into the body and we can do the same thing with, if we go to the stroke, we can, let's put, let's do something weird. Let's make it noisy. So it's got massive values in it. So let's go between 1 and 4. No, let's go 4 and 10, something a bit more obvious. More than that, maybe. So you can just do lots of, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can do lots of things like that.
Can you do custom strokes? Like, one of the things I always thought lacked in After Effects was like in Illustrator, you could do custom strokes, like make stuff look like a pencil line or what have you. Yeah. Whereas in After Effects, whenever you do a shape layer, it's just a clean stroke and that's all you've got. But can you do custom strokes in this, or plan on applying custom strokes down the line?
Yeah, not at the moment, but that's part of that kind of SKSL journey. So the idea that you can do those things in shaders. But we do have something called a Pathfinder as well. So you can basically sort of warp artwork around paths. So in the way that Illustrator allows, it's kind of what Illustrator's doing behind the scenes, but it's a bit more kind of front and center.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do it. You could use the duplicator to create lots of kind of weird and wonderful shapes, along a path if you wanted to. You can duplicate things along paths and do stuff like that as well.
Actually, the other thing I should probably say is that if the audience out there want to try Cavalry, they can check out on your website. But you've got a lot of demo videos as well, so it's not just you're not just at the deep end. You can get your head around the interface and how stuff works as well.
Yeah, we're really working on kind of trying to flesh out more tutorials and basically just more learning resources. There's some files in the documentation that no one ever reads. That you can download some sample files there and kind of dig around in bits. And then Dom, one of the guys at Mainframe, Dom, has just put out a tutorial today on some quite cool FUI type stuff.
Nice.
It's got a great comedy beer can opening at the start of it as well, so it's pretty laid back. But yeah, the learning resource is definitely something. We've had a bit of feedback saying some people are, would like to have a bit more resource around learning, because I think there's so much After Effects. There is just Google anything, you'll find something that might answer your question in After Effects. But we're the new kids on the block, so we haven't quite got that.
Are you guys planning on, because we're talking to Joey from School of Motion a couple of weeks ago, are you guys planning on like partnering up with like an outfit like School of Motion or whatever to kind of get like almost like a foundation in the industry to kind of grow it from there as well?
Yeah, definitely. Those guys have been super nice to us on our journey so far. And yeah, we're really looking forward to partnering with them on a course, definitely.
Great.
And what is the plan for you guys? Where you see, you guys be in like the next 3 years? Do you guys have things in mind you wanna as a goal and you wanna try to achieve?
In terms of the sort of features in the software, or kind of more generally?
Yeah, kind of more generally, like where you guys want to be. You want to see, more people using professionally and, like being, I'm not going to say competing with like After Effects, but being a tool where people use quite a lot on the professional side as well.
Yeah, definitely. That is, that's been the goal from the start. This is, it's professional. It's intended to be professional software. And yeah, I think it's really hard to define what exactly that 3 years will look like, but as more and more people use it, that's what we want to see, more and more people using it in more and more ways, because the idea is that it's completely extensible, flexible. You'll be able to kind of bend it to your will effectively. And so we're just really interested in seeing how people start using it. Going back to that kind of game example, that's not what we started out building Cavalry for. But that's what somebody immediately found a use for it, and that's really interesting. So I think there'll be some interesting kind of thoughts along the way. We should pursue this now, because we never thought of that before, and this person's done that, and so I think one of the things we've learned is quite unpredictable. You're going down a road sometimes and you realise you've hit a dead end, and you have to kind of come back and go in a different direction. So yeah, it's hard to really predict it, but I think we just like to see growth. We'd like to see it kind of propagate through the industry generally, and bleeding into other industries, outside of pure motion design.
Will you force freelancers and staff at Mainframe to use it and only that?
You know what? I think
yes, no.
but the Cavalry's, especially with so many amazing 3D packages around at the moment, it's never going to be your only motion design tool, but it should be. We put it in your toolkit. Do you know what I mean? It should be part of your thinking.
It should definitely be like one of the prominent blades on the Swiss Army knife.
Exactly.
We're definitely not force, never force any software down anyone's throat.
However,
from Mainframe point of view, but the guys certainly in Manchester, who are a bit closer to it, gravitate towards it all the time. We did a predominantly 3D project, but used Cavalry a lot, that used the data side of it a lot. And we had a client who had access to a Google Sheet, which was then populating some 2D graphics that were then going into a 3D, piece of work. And it was so smooth. We just couldn't imagine doing it in anything else now. So it's happening. It's kind of, people are starting to say, right, I've got to open Cavalry to do that. I'm not going to use After Effects for that particular task.
It's alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Chris and I did a talk last week for Glug, and we did a talk with a guy called Ben, who's a motion designer. He's a really good guy and a really good designer. And you could tell that prior to the talk, that he'd downloaded Cavalry, had a little play around with it, and you could tell it was only during the talk, when Chris was kind of taking through exactly how it worked and exactly, everything you could do with it, that his eyes lit up. And, he's a huge fan of it now. So I think it's one of those things that you've just got to kind of, it can be a kind of steep learning curve, but you've just got to kind of open your eyes to it and actually just kind of, spend a little time with it and see, after a little bit of time with the tutorials and the scene files, to see how quickly you can put work out. It's amazing. I
guess at some point, like with a lot of software, but at some point it kind of clicks and you get into the Cavalry way of thinking, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's a good way of using it in my next project or what have you.
Yeah. And on that, we're going back to the sort of Discord side of things. We have found that great, just for very informal chat. People not feeling scared to ask stupid questions. I think that's key when you're coming into something new.
That's why I like it.
You feel like everybody else knows how it works already, and so we seem to be building a nice little community in there of, it's not just us answering questions. There's other people in the community answering as well. So that's obviously, that's great for us.
Yeah. And you give example, but are you guys inside Mainframe start using more and more, and you see more, like people preferring to use that than, like, let's say, using After Effects? Is some kind of goal you guys have, like just to try and get the guys, to understand, because the way you show things, that is a lot of tools is a lot easier, and that probably for you guys then has the software internally in the team as well, just helps quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely being used in production. Weirdly, Mainframe don't do a huge amount of 2D animation, but as you guys know, 2D feeds into 3D a lot of the time, and that's how we've been putting Cavalry to use. Some of the guys have used the duplicator to basically make random textures.
Oh yeah.
And then they've output texture maps from Cavalry using, one image comes in, and then they throw it around in Cavalry, and then out the other side comes 20 different, I don't know, like bump maps or whatever it might be. But where was I going with that? I think what's been great for the Cavalry and or Scene Group, which is the sort of company that Cavalry is living in now, and Mainframe, is that we're in the same office when we're in office, and so we've kind of, from a software point of view, we've got our own in-house client, and from Mainframe's point of view, we've got our own in-house software developers. So it's worked really well where they've both been informing each other, and none of the developers are allowed to build anything that no one, because it quickly gets like, meh, not bothered about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's worked really well.
Do you guys do any? Oh, sorry.
Why? Just picking that point of view, you guys work more as a 3D. Where came you want to do more like a 2D software and not trying to develop a 3D software?
Probably simplicity.
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. But I think it's we do use After Effects probably more in Manchester than we do in London, really, don't we, Ad? I think it's kind of more.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few guys still use After Effects in London.
Yeah, but we were just getting frustrated with that, and so it became, not target's the wrong word, but it's like an obvious problem that there was room for improvement. And
I think you said it well before, that all the innovation in motion is in 3D at the moment, and a lot of people doing it fantastically well. But there's a lot of companies that do 2D design fantastically well that are underserviced in terms of their tools. I'm sure you probably, James, you would agree more than most. I mean,
yeah, I agree more than most. No, I do agree. Yeah, there's definitely a gap in the market for it. I think it seems to be like it feels like the 3D is like the golden child, but at the end of the day, like, good 2D design is just timeless anyway.
Yeah, it is, and I think it got in the moment where not going back to the same, everyone kind of pays off with Adobe in a way, like After Effects is just there alone, and it didn't change much. It's like James said in the beginning, it just changed the crashes and the errors, but
crashes faster.
Yeah, it crashes faster. But I think you guys got in the moment where a lot of people is so pissed off with the software and is so need for something that comes and we can work and we can find a different tool, and it can be quite good. I think the main thing saves After Effects at the moment is all the scripts, like people do
scripts, and because it's so like everyone uses it in the industry.
Yeah.
If it wasn't such a standard, then I think it'd be easier to purvey with something else. But anyway.
Yeah.
But, I think there's a gap in the market for Cavalry. It's just, it's another string to your bow. Like you say, like, all the generative stuff that After Effects can't really do particularly well. That's where it steps in. And especially, like you say, like integrating with 3D is like stuff like that. It's an absolute godsend.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got plans to go out to, whether it be USD or Alembic or, some 3D format as well. Again, going back to the idea that we are, it's polygons, vectors behind the scenes. So.
Do you guys develop at all in London at all, or is it just all Manchester?
Well, it's actually more Sheffield based now. So Ian, who's kind of heading up the project, is basically moved from Manchester back to Sheffield and was working remotely there. And then really the team has kind of built up around him now. So we're only 4 developers, 3 are in Sheffield, and we've got one who's, where is he now? He's currently in Berlin. He's kind of nomadic, Martin.
Nomad, huh?
Yeah. He's super modern.
Shall we ask some questions from to YouTube channel?
Yeah. We had one in the beginning, Mark Colleran. He said
he's a Manchester native.
He is.
Yeah. Hey Mark, yeah. You're right. UI specialist.
Where he? Yeah, he said that real gem, but needs some GPUI love. Any plans to rethink that as well to fully expose its potential?
Somewhat love. Sorry.
UI.
Yeah, the UI.
Yeah, we're definitely always working on that. It's been a big challenge trying to get a node-based system into a layer-based kind of look. We are building we are planning to build a proper node editor as well to go with it.
Great.
We made a call early on that we felt that was a bit too like super tech for the kind of people that we were trying to attract into Cavalry. I think it's becoming more common now. A lot of traditional 2D artists have moved into things like cinema, so they're a bit more familiar with node-based workflows.
It's just a nice way of working where you can just see everything at a glance. It's just like, oh, okay, that needs fixing or whatever. It's just nice.
Yeah. I mean, well, Mark, you should let us know what specific things you've got there. I know we've talked a bit in the past, but we're kind of obviously always working and trying to iterate through. It's never perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, we know we've been using After Effects for years. Yeah.
You also mentioned, I think we were talking about runtimes before, and there's one called Rive, but my knowledge isn't good enough to know much about that.
Rive, yeah, it's it's a great looking app.
So what is Rive? Is that kind of more like coordinate based and smaller files or something, or what's the deal?
Yeah, it's purely targeted at web animation. So runtimes that run in the browser. Basically, they've got their own player that they're building.
Oh, cool.
Which I think it's really interesting, but we sort of wonder whether that's going to become another a standard that isn't a standard.
Right. So it needs to be like more widely adopted.
Yeah. So that goes back to that whole kind of Lottie conversation. They're moving into a very similar world. They're not actually using Lottie. So we need to open up some conversations with them and bring everyone in.
So you need to pick VHS or Betamax.
Yeah, it's going that way.
Cool. Should we pick just do another 2 questions? We're just passing an hour and a quarter.
You can pick some.
Yeah, I'm quite interested. I downloaded the beta version before and play a little bit. I think for me, it's always find the time to get deep in the software when you're trying to move. That happens when I want to learn 3D and took me so long. Do you think you guys, because you got some tutorials online, so just talking about, you've been discussing maybe like with schools and things. I'm just trying to think how I can get the guys in the studio to get more involved with them, trying to learn as well. Do you have any recommendation for someone that want to learn and never open the software? And what is, you said about the documentation, but no one really, nowadays everything is all like tutorials online with 15-year-old kids. Do you guys expect to do more tutorials to help people understand more the software? And
yeah, definitely. We've got we've kind of got one of the playlists on our YouTube channel is a kind of getting started stuff. So it's really just those kind of bare principles. And I think as James alluded to, there is a moment where you go, aha, right, I get it. Because if you have got kind of an After Effects background, there are some things in Cavalry that you'll think, that's not how it works. But we think that's how it should work. And there definitely is a click moment, and it doesn't take as long as you're not as far away as you think you might be. In that first day or two, having a go at it.
And also suggestions for tutorials, always welcome as well. We want to know what people what people want to learn.
1 minute wonders.
Yeah, they're super useful. People love them.
They're literally things you can do in a minute. And that's literally a minute. It's a live 1 minute thing to do. So if you've got 5 minutes of your day, watch a few of those, and I think it will just spark some ideas about other ways you could sort of use similar features.
You could use
take a minute to open up.
Sorry, what was that?
There's certain packages that take a minute to open up.
That's true.
Do you guys have any plans to do like competitions for people create, like little video animations using?
You could take the 1 minute wonder idea and give people like say 5 minutes to create whatever they want, but then it gets a bit close to cut and paste in some ways. But it's still quite interesting when you, I don't know, I think the best creativity comes along when you have limitations. So having like a 5 minute time limit could be super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the 36 days of type is always was quite good to us last year, because people that it was really nice to create some interesting.
It totally suits it, doesn't it? Like the whole idea of generating stuff and all that kind of side of things. It totally suits Cavalry. Yeah. Okay. All right. Shall we wrap things up?
Cool. Yeah. I'm just checking if anyone got a question. I think we're fine.
Actually, Mark was saying about.
I was just wondering whether you would mind just playing that little promo, because that just showed that could give people a little taste of some of the work that the wider community's created.
Yeah, I think it's always nice just for people to understand, because it's quite hard when you want to learn a new software and you think why, and it's like always the situation, like sometimes life is shit, but it's so hard to move from that shit, and we stick with After Effects for so long. Why we should, I think for the young generation it's easy, but
what do they call it? Like Stockholm syndrome.
It's true.
We're definitely fighting that tide, but we'll lull you over.
Sorry, let me just shut properly here.
Quick time 7.
Yeah.
We're cutting
quick
edge.
time 7.
Why would you change?
Yeah, why you change? That's why I'm asking. What is the reason I should move?
Yeah, you're our toughest customer now, Tiago.
Yeah.
I think he's not the demographic.
Quick time 7 is still better than,
Best.
they still call Pro, no?
Yeah.
The new one is a piece of shit. Cool. So let me just put full screens.
No picture there, Tiago.
I don't see it.
Just a black screen.
Can you see that?
I could hear it.
Have you got it on a different screen? Have you got it on a second screen?
I've got just one screen. Just let me do again.
Could try making it not full screen, see if that makes any difference.
I can do the full screen. Can you guys see that now?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see if it's full screen?
Oh, not working.
It's the full screen. Just wait.
There's always something technical when we do these things.
Third time's a charm.
It's a bit. Yeah, I think the problem is quick time 7.
Should go X.
Cool. So you guys can see now, yeah? I just play like that.
Very nice.
Cool. Let me stop. Yeah, it's nice to see what is possible, because when we talk about the software, it's always hard to understand what you can do.
So how like with advertising the software, how do you make sure you attract the proper woke kids? Make some dank shit.
Well, I mean, one of the things we're doing is we're just about to launch an educational license, because that's something that we've had so much feedback. So many people, many students and teachers have said we're really keen on introducing this into our curriculum. So Penny gets an educational license. So that's coming very soon. and hopefully they're going to be the superstars of the future that feed it through and, you know, come out. And we've had a few people that have kind of, you know, come out of a uni already, and they've been like interns in kind of big design companies, and they've kind of introduced it into their companies already. So hopefully it's going to be the kind of the woke kids, the early adopters that are bringing it into us dinosaurs.
How old do you feel saying woke kids? Yeah, I mean, that's a good plan, isn't it? Like, it's nice. Yeah, I think that's where the creativity is. Just, you know, there's no constraints that you get with being older and working in the industry. It's just pure creativity. So it'd be super interesting to see how that generation will use the software and what they'll come up with.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to not have all those After Effects influences and all the sort of tropes that you've seen before.
Baggage.
Yeah, copying all that stuff. So yeah, we're hoping to really see some. Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing some new weird and wonderful things happening, but yeah, keep bringing those to us.
Great.
Cool. Nice, guys. Again, thank you so much, Ina. It's good to have a chat with you guys and try understand, you know, a little bit the perspective of the software as well.
Just interesting going from animation to software development. You know, it's quite an interesting journey. I imagine quite a difficult one, obviously.
Yes, it's a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just imagine some weird Lord of the Rings type trilogy. But anyway.
Yeah. And Adam and Chris, if you guys want to ping me some like good links for tutorials, I can, you know, just put like a little bit more on description as well, just to help people then want to learn the software.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great.
That can be quite good. It's always nice to bring fresh perspective to the industry as well and see what people can do and not focus much on the software. At least now we got one more software on the list. So when people say, what software do you do there now?
Well, it's another piece of software that people rate themselves out of 10 on the
Yeah. But guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it was really good.
That's all right. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. You're doing a really good job. Everyone's really enjoying these.
You too, or you guys too, should I say? All right, we got our next show on Tuesday, the 3rd of November.
3rd of November, and we're bringing Justin.
Is that being? Yeah, okay, it's been confirmed then. All right.
Yeah, it's been confirmed. It's been confirmed.
That's why I didn't want to mention it just in case. So.
No, you can mention. I leave you to mention properly.
All right, so join us on the 3rd of November. We've got Justin Cohn doing a chat. Like the industry godfather in many ways.
Yeah,
that should be.
I hear he's got a new job.
Yeah, he just got a job on Buck.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So this is probably one of the. I think he's a director of communication. So this is like, you know, perfect.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be quite good. It's just been fun to bring different perspective to, you know, just studios and animators. We have School of Motion. You guys from the software development, and get Justin. We always want to bring Justin.
Industry commentator in a way.
The live show. So
yeah, the ledge.
Cool, guys. Thank you so much, and we see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
See ya.